Here we go. We made it, Matt. Our first six-pack of the 2024 season, a six-pack of our favorite games, making picks for a Thursday night or a Friday game as we get ready for the kickoff of the 2024 season. A couple big contracts as well to get this season going. On today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We love and appreciate all of our everydayers. Thanks for jumping on with us for another season of NFL football. If you're brand new, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube or wherever you listen to this podcast. Matt and I will take you through the entire NFL season and then the off season following every day, 5 days a week, as we do here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, every day. It is what we do here. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And of course, all the lines we reference here in our picks every week are from our friends at FanDuel. Okay, before we get to our six-pack of picks, and we start with Baltimore at the Kansas City Chiefs, which is a really good one to kick off this 2024 season schedule, Matt. We got some big contracts coming through here to start the season. Are the contracts coming in later than normal? Don't these usually hit like midway through camp rather than like the week before the season starts? Or am I misremembering how these big contracts are done that happen right before the season?
It does seem to be later than usual. I mean, your Niners are a perfect example. My Steelers did a big one today, Surtain. A lot of teams, and this is very much a Steelers thing, is why I know it so well, will not negotiate at all. I mean, like the Steelers rule is once you get on the plane for week one, we are not doing contracts with you. Like I've been told that Troy Polamalu signed his contract at the tarmac, but we're walking on to week one on the plane. They would not, and once you're on the plane, it's done. And there's a lot of teams like that. They just don't want those things getting in the way. So there's a deadline. You know, once we start going to the opponent's place or, host a game, we got to get it in this week. So if you've been talking, sometimes these deadlines make things happen a little quicker.
Patrick Surtain kind of blows away the next highest contract in NFL history for a cornerback. $24 million per year now for Pat Surtain. He's one of the top corners in the league. He's young. He's absolutely the type of person you want to build a foundation around if you're Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, and well-deserved for Patrick Surtain. $24 million per year. Nobody's within $3 million per year of him. I think 21 and 20 are the next few that are the top five big cornerback contracts in the NFL. And obviously, cornerstone player. And, Quinn Miners was a deal that was done earlier on this offseason as well. So clearly Sean Payton's putting together his squad and, putting some stamps on guys on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. This is the foundation. This is what we are building around going forward to go with their young quarterback. By the way, how about this for news for the Denver Broncos? Bo Nix became the first rookie Broncos captain since 1967, a guy by the name of Floyd Little, apparently.
Okay.
So, and this was as chosen by the players. This wasn't like Sean Payton's like, okay, I'm going to set a tone here and name my rookie quarterback a starter and make him a captain. The players, and I guess maybe do you have to, if you're a player, vote the starting quarterback as the captain of your football team? But Bo Nix, first rookie captain since 1967.
So that is interesting. And by all accounts, he is hardworking, likable, all that stuff, and ahead of the curve mentally and mature. And that's great. I will tell you, once in a while, the coach might go into some of the leaders' ears and be like, it'd sure be nice if Bo Nix got the captain this year. Why don't you spread that around? Like that could happen. But back to Surtain real quick. Not long ago, I thought they might blow this thing up, dump Sutton and Judy, and I mean, I know Judy left, but then really just after the Russell Wilson debacle, I thought they might get rid of all their assets, and I think this is a smarter move than stripping it down to studs, especially if you think you have your quarterback and you're not, aiming to get the first overall pick necessarily,
Right. Once you have a quarterback, and even then it's difficult and it doesn't always work. And the level of like really threading that needle of tanking and hitting a good quarterback and then having enough pieces to build around that quarterback and still have your job if you're GM or head coach, like that's not the easiest thing to do. And I think in the NFL, generally tanking's not good. And even if you take yourself out of something, that's not a great place to be. And it's so hard to build from zero versus building from something. And, an older coach like Sean Payton, who's been around, probably didn't want to do that anyway. And especially if you think you already have your quarterback now, you definitely don't want to get worse. So, once they got a quarterback, it's like, okay, we need to build around this guy now. They start paying guys and less likely to trade. I think Cortland Sutton was one of those. And apparently that was part of and you and I had talked about this, and we feel pretty good about the reporting of what happened. And I think the Steelers thought they might have had Brandon Ayuk. Niners just needed to figure out a wide receiver. And Cortland Sutton was one of those they made a call to, and, nothing happened. And so I don't know if it's good or bad for the Broncos going forward to do that, but it helps their team now. That's for sure, to not trade like, a veteran like Cortland Sutton for your young quarterback after already getting rid of Jerry Jeudy.
And maybe Sutton's a trade deadline guy, or, if things go awry, I mean, you can still do that throughout the course of the year. But in terms of tanking, I just don't think Sean Payton's wired that way. I mean, he grew up under Parcells. He's not around to rebuild. I mean, I'm going to coach this thing up to my greatest abilities and get the most out of these guys.
And it's like, okay, tear it down immediately, but like we're into this thing a little bit now. He needs to start winning some football games.
Yeah, right. And Surtain's a great player, and he's worth the money. I mean, of all the defensive backs out there, he would be the one I would pay the most.
And the reason you entertain it is you're like, okay, someone come give us 2 first-round picks for Surtain, and we end up getting something like, what the Houston Texans were able to do and really rebuild the whole thing quickly. But now you got your quarterback. You've got studs on both sides of the ball. You're trying to build around. So that's the path for the Denver Broncos. Are they ready this year to compete with the rookie quarterback? I have my doubts. They're not part of our 6-pack, though. There is the Pittsburgh Steelers are part of our 6-pack today, and they did a new deal with a guy who's done a lot of deals in the NFL.
Yeah, Cam Hayward signed a 3-year, $45 million. So people around here are like, that's way too much. He's an older guy that's had a very injury-plagued season. He really shouldn't have been out there for much of the year, and he was not the same player. So that being said, I still have not seen any evidence that he is the great player he was 2 years ago, because they haven't asked him to do anything. I mean, I just don't. It's a total unanswerable question, because he's done a little bit in practice, but they've just kept him in bubble wrap. I mean, he's perfectly healthy. But I know that he has an old man's game. We always joke that he's the old man at the Y that gets every rebound, even though he can't run anymore, because he's strength and power and technique. He's not built on initial quickness and things like that. And frankly, he's the leader of the team. And the Steelers are always going to reward those guys. I mean, that goes back to Joe Green. I mean, I can show you the lineage of Joe Green passed it on to this guy, who passed it on to this guy. And Cam Hayward is passing it on to TJ Watt as we speak. He is the leader in the building. He is the elder statesman. He's the most respected. He's Walter Payton Man of the Year. And I think that means more to this team than most.
More on that Pittsburgh Steelers team. Love what's going on the defensive side of the ball. I've got questions for you before I actually make my pick with Pittsburgh at the Atlanta Falcons. We'll get to that next, talking 6-pack. It's time, Matt, for
let's go.
6-pack of picks. Week 1 is upon us. Let's start making picks for games on the 2024 NFL schedule next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And as I mentioned, all of the lines we reference all season long here come from FanDuel. And we always talk about FanDuel, right? And there's a reason they're America's #1 sports book. And football fans have a little bit of extra reason to play FanDuel to start this season. A little something different for you. Now through September 22nd, All FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook and bet on everything, like the over-unders that we're going to cover on tomorrow's episode. Thursday's episode of Peacock and Williamson are over-unders. We're going to tell you if we're going over or under the win totals for every team in the NFL from the FanDuel over-unders. Who's going to win the next Super Bowl? Not just NFL bets, but, man, every week, NFL prop bets. Find it all at FanDuel.com. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Okay, six-pack time.
Yeah.
Let's get the sounder. Let's pour them out. We are starting with the Baltimore Ravens at the Kansas City Chiefs to kick off the 2024 NFL schedule, man. I'm so excited for games to actually be here, and this is a fantastic one to get it all going. And those Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champions, going to collect some rings, and they are favored by 3 points against those Baltimore Ravens.
I have massive respect for the Ravens organization, Harbaugh, Lamar, etc. But I do think there's a lot of defensive coaching changes and O-line shuffling that might take a little time. Like, I think the second half of the season might be better than the first half for the Ravens. And I bet since they've been doing the Super Bowl champion at home Thursday night, I have picked the champion every time. I just think that it's such a buzzsaw to walk into. And Mahomes has played plenty, and Reed, when you give him extra time to prepare, a bye week or whatever, is unstoppable. So I don't think this number is big enough considering the circumstances and walking into Kansas City. I mean, good luck. I don't care what team it was. I'm going to take the Chiefs here.
Yep. And, home team usually gets around 3 points. I think if this is a neutral site game, I'd still pick the Chiefs by at least 1. So this needed to be 4 or more for me to even think about taking the Ravens here. I like how the Chiefs are ready to start seasons. Week 1 is important to the Chiefs. They play their starters a lot. This team is ready to play here. And obviously they're at home against the Baltimore Ravens. And this isn't anything about the Ravens. Just I'm excited about this season for the Kansas City Chiefs because I think they're going to start fast. And I can't wait to see how that offense comes together with Xavier Worthy, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
It happens. The one thing I don't like, as much as I like the player, is you're starting a rookie left tackle. And could that be your head? All it takes is one play and a wrong step here, a bad hand placement there. And all of a sudden, your blind side's getting ear-holed if you're the most valuable asset in the NFL. And so you got to make sure that doesn't happen. And so I'm sure there's going to be chips and a little bit of help to get Kingsley Suamataia going at left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the one reservation I have about this team. As much as I like Kingsley Suamataia, you're starting a rookie left tackle, as talented as he is. So otherwise, if he's good, this is going to be a really good Kansas City Chiefs team, as they always are. And a healthy Ravens squad to start the year is going to be fun to watch too. Like, this is going to be, I think some of these games are going to be low scoring too. So you might not have, you might pick the unders. You might pick a game that if there's a huge favorite, maybe they just don't blow the other team out. Right. It's going to be a popcorn game for sure, but I have to pick the Kansas City Chiefs at home here because just not quite enough points, but there's nothing against the Ravens either. This is just all about my comfort level with the Chiefs right now to start the year.
And contrary to this choice, I lean toward dogs in week 1 too, because I think we know, but we don't really know. You know what I mean? Like I think dogs are a safer pick in week 1. Fatigue sets in, teams come back late in games. And you mentioned the left tackle situation for the Chiefs. That's the last thing I wanted to mention was I know it's a new defensive coordinator in Baltimore, but it's probably going to be a very aggressive, complex attacking style. They're going to challenge him, but Spags is going to challenge those new starters too. And, Chris Jones just lining up over one of the new guards scares the heck out of me,
Mm-hmm. Can't wait for it. It's going to be a fantastic one. How about a little Friday nighter as well to get the season going? And it's going to be the Green Bay Packers at the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, home team favored by 3 points.
This is in Brazil.
Yeah, sorry, it's in Brazil.
Yeah.
It's not actually in Philadelphia, so they're both on the road here. So you don't get that extra 3-point bump from it actually being a home game for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's why I like the Green Bay Packers in this one now.
Again, we often say if this was a neutral game, I would like X team better. Well, this is a neutral game, and I think Green Bay is better than Philly. Like, our buddy Ross sent a text or an email last night saying, "Hey, can you help us out with the Locked On Power Ranks?" I'm like, sure. I banged out my 32. I had Green Bay ahead of Philly. So I don't understand exactly why they're getting points. I think they're probably the better team. They're young. They're deep on both sides of the ball. Well coached. Not that Philly isn't, but they have a lot more moving parts. And I don't look at this as a home team by any means.
I think I might have had them back to back in those power rankings. Look out for the final results of the Locked On NFL hosts ranking out NFL teams every week in our Locked On Power rankings. I think I did have them back to back. I can't remember which one was first, but that just goes to show you this should be a 1-point game or a pick-em game for Packers Eagles. So I'll take the points here for the Green Bay Packers. And the Green Bay Packers were playing better ball more recently than the Philadelphia Eagles, which is a big thing for me if the teams are close. Although that was a long time ago. You can't really carry over January into the next September, I don't think. So, but that's the only thing we have to go on.
And I'll probably infuriate some of my fellow Pennsylvanians, but I think Jordan Love's I give the quarterback advantage to Green Bay.
Wow.
I think we're at that point. That's not a huge knock on her. It's not a ringing endorsement either, but I think Love's a better player.
He's played better recently. Again, more track record. Their season's actually kind of, as the Packers really got hot and got better at the end of the year, that's when the Philadelphia Eagles started to tank a little bit. Not quite tank. Well, I guess they did kind of tank.
They kind of fell apart, right?
They spent 18 months as the number 1 seed in the NFC before that, too. So you can't really bury them. And I think they do have some good coaches that they've added as coordinators on the offensive defensive side of the ball, too. But just more questions about how it's coming together for Philly than Green Bay for me to start the season in a neutral environment. Brazil, it's going to be popping, I'm sure. Green versus green.
There you go.
All right, so we both got
a lot more change with the Eagles than the Packers.
Before we pick our next game, which is, we're getting to Sunday now, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, the Pittsburgh Steelers better than anyone. Before I can make my assessment of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, I need you not to tell me about the defense. I don't even care about Russell Wilson at quarterback. I have a good idea of what that's going to be.
Yeah.
I need you to tell me about the offensive line. Is this offensive line ready to play? Because that's going to affect the passing game and the running game. And as good as the defense is, if they can't at least run the ball and then pop a couple over the top to George Pickens, it's going to be a long day and a long year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think, offensively. So tell me about the offensive line in Pittsburgh, man.
It's worrisome today. I am super excited about it from a year from now, late in the season, etc. But they've been hit the hardest on the offensive line by injuries, and it's kind of screwed everything up. I mean, Zach Frazier was taking over the center job, but Herbig got hurt right when that was happening. He was a quality backup swing guy in the middle. Ciamalo's their best offensive lineman today, and he's out for this game and maybe another. They avoided, so they're going to have 2 new starters at center and left guard on the road. That's not great. And they keep messing with Jones, but some of it's not really their fault. I mean, I know no one gets this deep in the weeds, but Dan Moore can only play left tackle. So when the first round pick got hurt, who was taking over the right tackle job, Jones had to bounce back there. So there's a chance he plays. I don't think he will for Atanu. I think that because he's been out so long, Jones will be on the right, but before long, the first round picks will take over a tackle. But right now it's a little messy and you're counting on young guys and a lot of lack of continuity. It's a little scary.
And Jaylen Warren?
I think he's fine.
He's fine. Okay. So it's going to be a 2-headed monster at running back. It's going to be 1A Jaylen Warren, 1B Najee Harris.
Najee's going to get probably 60%.
Okay. So 60-40 Najee is what you're looking at for those fantasy players out there. Okay.
But they're going to run the ball a lot. And I think that's the whole plan, is just bring out a big personnel, be a bully against a light and not a real impressive Falcons front, in my opinion. Probably get Terrell on Pickens a lot. You'll probably get Porter on London a lot. I heard just now that Pitts has some kind of hamstring situation.
Yeah, he's
Cousins
not
hasn't played
to start the week, according to Raheem Morris. This was just as we were going live here. Kyle Pitts hamstring limited to start the week, which is not great. And apparently there was some reports that he's been looking really good too, Kyle Pitts, and not used so much as a vertical player and clear out player, and will actually be utilized over the middle of the field, which you could imagine, the way that Rams offense that the Atlanta Falcons are bringing over, you need that middle of the field player, right? And they kind of use Kupp and Nakua as a tight end of sorts, right, over the middle of the field. And that's why those guys get so banged up, because they're playing inside the trees a lot. Well, now you have an actually super athletic move tight end that you can utilize in that role. So that's really exciting for those fantasy players and Kyle Pitts owners. But he might not be out there week one. So we'll see. Some questions here with these two football teams. With that said, who you got? Steelers or Falcons? Atlanta Falcons at home, favored by 3, by the way.
Last I heard was 3.5, which made me much, much more comfortable with the Steelers. I'm still going to take the points. I mean, it's going to be sold out. Atlanta fans are buying up tickets like crazy, but I can bet everything I own that there will be at least 1/3 Steelers fans in that stadium. So it's going to be advantageous that way. I just don't love the Falcons' ability to stop the run in this game. So I think the Steelers keep it close and grind it out, where I think the Falcons are built more for shootouts. And I also think Arthur Smith, knowing that team, is in more of an advantage to the Steelers than the other way around. And another little note, Raheem Morris and Tomlin are like best friends. Like, they know each other extremely, extremely well. And I'll take the veteran coach in that situation, the big brother. You know what I mean?
First-time offensive coordinator, a lot of new going on for the Atlanta Falcons. Yeah. And so
I wish Cousins played a little before now too.
Right. Yeah. So, is this extended spring or extended preseason for the Atlanta Falcons still? So for that reason, I do like taking the points in this one and taking the Pittsburgh Steelers. And definitely, if you can get that 3.5 on FanDuel, that'll help too, because this could be an ugly one. Could be a 13-10 game.
Yep, come down to coup or Boz to win this thing in the Dome,
All right, we're going to finish up our 6-pack of picks for week one. We've got Houston, Indy, Jacksonville, Miami, and the Buffalo Bills are hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Those are going to be the rest of our picks here today. And, of course, we'll come back Friday and break down everything we saw from the Thursday nighter and make the rest of our picks for week one. But stay tuned for the rest of our Sunday 6-pack next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. It's the formula for winning championships. It's also what brings your ride or die alive and keeps that thing on the road and helps level it up, because eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and get it to peak performance. We're talking superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And it couldn't be easier. There's a big green check mark. You know that part is going to fit with all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car into the MVP. Bring home that W. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Here we go. Week 1 6-pack, Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts, and it is the road Texans that are favored by 2.5 against the Colts in this one. I feel like I am more confident and know more about how the Texans are going to be this year than about the Indianapolis Colts this year. And a quick note on the Indianapolis Colts, it looks like Josh Dobbs is still out. And Josh Downs, excuse me, not Josh Dobbs. Downs, the slot receiver, is still out. And Shane Steichen says he's progressing well, even though he's been out a month and still can't practice. So that doesn't sound like progressing well to me with the sprained ankle or whatever it is that Josh Downs is dealing with.
I think it's a high ankle sprain, which you hate.
Yeah, the high variety of the ankles.
Right. Bad.
Undecided. So if you're not practicing at all, like, so for For Kyle Pitts, he's limited. So that's something where, okay, let's see if he gets into practice, gets a full practice in by Friday. If you're not even on the field at all, you're just out completely to start the week on a Wednesday, then I don't like that for Josh Downs. And, it just adds to the kind of the mystery, really, for a lot of fans. Like, I don't know what to expect from the Indianapolis Colts.
And I don't love a road dog to start the season. And I do think Indy might be the more physical team with their offensive line. Taylor behind Quentin Nelson all day long at home. But I do think the Texans are the better team. I think both are well coached. Pretty clear quarterback advantage for Houston, although I do think Richardson might be really, really good, and hard to play against. But I do think he's harder to trust without question. And I think the Texans' D is better. So I'm leaning towards Houston here, but I don't feel real strong about placing a bet on this one,
I am too. And I'm glad that you could win with a field goal, right? Because it's 2.5. And
yeah.
So I'll give up the 2.5 points because I think Houston's better. I think they're prepared to come in and win this game. And I think it could be an ugly one. And it could be a lot like what we just talked about with Pittsburgh and how that might look. And the Indianapolis Colts trying to run the ball a lot with their quarterback and their running back. And this could end up being a 13-10 type of game. But I do like, in the end, the Houston Texans in this one. And if it grew and I had to give up a lot more than a field goal, I don't know if I'd feel as comfortable with it in week one, and I might go home dog. But for now, I'm going to take the Houston Texans and give up 2.5.
Yeah. Again, don't love on the road dog to start the season when there's a lot of mystery, but I just think they're better.
I feel like the odds makers don't quite know what to do with any of these teams either.
Yeah, I bet it's really hard to make lines.
I don't know.
And you mentioned this off there. This is a really good slate of games for week one.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited. All these games, like I'm going to gain 10 pounds just from the amount of popcorn I eat. We get Thursday, then Friday, then followed up with Sunday, and then the Monday nighter, which is going to be awesome as well. So I'm pumped for it. And Matt, we have made all of the same picks, which I don't like in our season.
I don't like that at all.
We all have KC, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and Houston so far. Let's see if the last two games change it up for us here. The Jackson, and by the way, the Houston Texans, I'm all in. If you haven't listened to the other episodes of this podcast recently, that's another reason. Like, Houston Texans they're going to be really good. I think they're borderline potentially going to be a juggernaut this year. Will Anderson going into year 2 with D'Amico Ryans. They added Donnell Hunter. I like a lot of the players on all levels of that defense. And you got a superstar young quarterback and a ton of weapons to throw to in an offense that we know works in the NFL. I mean, what's not to like about the Houston Texans right now?
Yeah, and it's one thing I wanted to mention about that game too is one of my biggest concerns with the Colt roster is corner. And those 3 receivers might never leave the field for Houston,
And all reports are Stephon Diggs is like going to go crazy too.
Mm-hmm.
Like
something to prove, and
he's still great and was in a bad headspace last year and is ready to be like the true number 1, actually, even over Nico Collins potentially in that offense for Houston. So look out for that. If you're the Indianapolis Colts in week 1, might run into a juggernaut. Jacksonville Jaguars at Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are favored by 3.5 here in week 1 against Jacksonville. One thing I don't like for Miami, they don't get to face like a California team that's coming across or, the Buffalo Bills coming down and like, oh, what's this weird Florida September weather? Because the Jacksonville Jaguars are ready for it.
That's something I say every year to start the season is I am real big on Denver at home early in the season because of the thin air. Like, they're on the road, but the Steelers go there next week. And give me the hottest teams ever, especially Miami, because fatigue. But it's not going to be anything to the Jags. So that being said, and I'm a Lawrence supporter, believer, I just think that pesky head coach for the Dolphins has been working his crazy offensive magic all summer and has told nobody outside the organization what we're going to get. And they're going to throw weird motion or something innovative at their opponents early in the season that by week 4, the rest of the league is copying, but they don't know it's coming yet. And I'll take Miami's offense.
Something I've seen a little bit in the preseason, and I think the Miami Dolphins are going to be one that's going to utilize it, is this motion where you get essentially it's I don't even know how to explain it, and we probably need a diagram to do it better, but essentially you're able to get your running back out in space even quicker and easier. And you have, It's like it's the most extended handoff you can imagine in the NFL, essentially. And it's a screen pass. You have everybody in motion already and out in front for you. And it's just another wrinkle to get these guys who have 4.3 speed out in space. And I don't know if it's going to be Achane. I don't know if it's going to be Mostert. I don't know if it's going to be the rookie Wright either. Obviously, you have Waddle and Tyreek Hill. 4-3 guys everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I like the Dolphins. I think they're better on the defensive side of the ball this year as well. I think they're a well-coached football team. And I'm not going to believe in the Jacksonville Jaguars until I see it. And they could be it this year. Like they could be really good this year. But I just don't love where they're at. I wish it was 3 instead of 3.5 points, but that's still not going to scare me off. I think the Miami Dolphins could be that team that puts up a whole bunch of points in week 1 in a low-scoring game.
Yep, I think they could get 40, and I'm not. It doesn't matter the defense they play; they might just throw things at you that is innovative.
And Jaguars, catch the football, help your boy out. You know, Trevor Lawrence got paid. We'll see how it comes together. But I'm side-eyeing the Jacksonville Jaguars right now. I need to see it before I believe. I already believe in the Miami Dolphins, and they're going to be ready for week 1, and it's going to be a track meet out there in Miami. Giving up the 3.5, as you are. Come on, we got to
fight on one
here on the final game in our 6-pack. It is the Buffalo Bills hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Buffalo favored by 6 points here against Arizona. I wish this was a bigger line because I really want to take Arizona. How do you see this one? By the way, here's the argument for the Arizona Cardinals in this game. And you know, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to take the Cardinals here.
I thought for sure you'd take Buffalo. I'm taking Cardinals too.
Are you taking the Cardinals? All right. Well,
yes.
Maybe you can talk me out of it.
I doubt it. I like the Cardinals this game.
They're not that dissimilar, these two teams.
I know.
I know they came from a place where it seems like complete rebuild for the Cardinals. You've got the superstar quarterback and a really good playoff tested team in the Buffalo Bills. But you start to look at one of the reports. Great story. DeMar Hamlin looking like he's going to be one of the starting safeties. He's listed on their depth chart as a starter this year for the Buffalo Bills. It's an awesome story, but it just goes to show you what they've lost on the defensive side of the ball there, what they've lost with pass catchers. I mean, give me Dalton Kincaid in my fantasy leagues all day. Give him to me in the DFS because I don't know if there's anybody that's going to be covering him over the middle of the field, and I'm not sure if I trust everything going on the outside for Josh Allen. But then you look at the Arizona Cardinals, you think, well, okay, they've got Marvin Harrison Jr., they've got a good offensive line, and they do have a really good quarterback. So how different are these teams really? Now, the front seven is better for Buffalo, but I don't know how good they are. It is in Buffalo, and it's only 6 points. Like this needs – okay, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Buffalo because it's only 6 points, and I do think they are a better team. But maybe these two teams aren't that far off.
I tend to agree. And what I like best here is the over. And, you know, you mentioned Kincaid. Well, I want McBride. I mean, there's no Milano. With all respect to Hamlin, he's not a starting safety. I mean, he's a great story, and I hope he turns into the best safety that ever lived. But their safety linebacker situation has always been so good there, and it would scare the heck out of me if I'm Buffalo. And I love their D-line in Buffalo, and I hate everything about Arizona's defense. So Josh Allen's going to make plays, score points, and I think Arizona is going to be right there with them. I think this could be the highest scoring game of the week. And I wish it was, 7 or 6.5 or 7.5, but I think Arizona can go toe to toe with them in a game like that.
Arizona could have a legitimately really, really good
offense. Agreed. I don't think the world knows. Take over on Cardinals games.
They're bad on defense, especially that front seven. Worst front seven in the NFL.
Brutal.
So it's 6. Yeah, you know what? 6 at Buffalo, Orchard Park. I'm looking at it's 65 degrees. I mean, come on.
It's a beautiful day.
Little cool weather there for that Arizona team, and they're traveling. That's a long travel. It's a long distance to go for the Cardinals. So a little bit to ask for the Cardinals here in week 1. I wanted to do it, but since you're going upset alert for the Arizona Cardinals potentially, I'm going to go Buffalo Bills here and give up the 6 points.
Okay. I mean, I don't love the road trip or any of those things. I just think that they can hang firepower wise.
Battle tested Bills at home week 1. Upstart Cardinals. Yeah, let's not get too crazy yet. On the Arizona Cardinals. I like the call on the over though.
Yeah, good fireworks. Start everybody in fantasy.
Who leads the Buffalo Bills in receptions this year, Matt?
Kincaid.
I tend to
followed by Coleman.
Coleman's going to play a lot. I like Khalil Shakir potentially because although middle of the field Shakir, middle of the field Kincaid, and
right, and Samuel does a little everything.
Yeah, and they're really all inside guys because I really think that Keon Coleman should be more of a big slot than a true outside X that they're going to try to use him as. I don't know if the separation is going to be there for him. I know he can make plays on the ball. So interesting how that comes together. Kincaid is the guy that you want, I think, on that offense, or just Josh Allen running it in himself in your fantasy.
What worries me about Shakir is, in terms of like for fantasy and stats, is I think he's going to be the third receiver on the field, and they're probably going to play a lot of 12 with Knox and Kincaid. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Preseason showed that he's probably the 3 in the pecking order.
But Cook, maybe he's the one.
Oh, I think he catches a ton of passes.
Interesting. I
like Ray Davis too.
Talked about those Buffalo Bills this year.
I think the offense will come around. The back 7 on defense scares the heck out of me.
There's your 6-pack for week 1. We'll make the rest of our picks on Friday's episode. Tomorrow, we are going to pick over-unders on all the win totals for every team in the NFL. So stay tuned here every day. Peacock and Williamson on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Matt and I back tomorrow right here. Peacock and Williamson.